You're very disappointed that the National Cabinet seems to have fallen apart. There seems to be no hope for consensus. They don't want to follow the Prime Minister's lead. They all want to go off in their own direction.
Well, I think we all want to see the National Cabinet, state premiers and the Prime Minister working constructively together. And the reality is the Prime Minister has put on the table some very sensible measures, which is to try and get the states to come to some sort of agreement about the pathway for reopening Australia in a sustainable way. And I would have thought that was something that every Premier wants to see, because it's the basis in which we can reopen the country. We can give Australians a pathway forward. And it's a way of people being, frankly, able to rebuild their lives. I'm from Victoria, as you know, and the need for hope and a sense of forward direction is critical at this time.
You know, we all want to protect the vulnerable. We all want to keep the coronavirus under control, flatten the curve, as we say. But when you've got Mark McGowan effectively saying they'll just keep their borders shut until there's no virus left in the rest of the country, and you've got Anastasia Palaszczuk saying she won't open up to New South Wales until there's been a month without any community transmission, this is such a hard edge and unrealistic criteria to lie down, isn't it? Whatever happened to us learning to live with the virus, especially given there may never be a vaccine, they might be just delaying the fact that eventually they're just going to have to deal with this thing.
Well, it's empty populism, basically, because, and I understand why people get a false sense of security from closing borders, but the practical reality is that we could even contain it in Australia and have no virus cases, and that's a very big in best case scenario situation. But that's not going to be what's happening in the rest of the world. And so you've got states like Queensland that are heavily dependent on tourism, and at some point are going to have to make a choice about who they're going to let into their state and under what terms. So we have to recognise that the virus is a huge problem. We have to recognise that there are other impacts, including mental health issues, other health issues were from delayed access to healthcare, and of course the economic considerations that come, which should balance our thinking and weight our thinking rather than just looking at everything through a singular lens.
Now, I want to get your thoughts, Tim, on human rights, a special interest of yours, human rights in Victoria. We saw that shocking arrest earlier in the week where Zoe, a pregnant woman, was handcuffed in her own home for something she posted on Facebook. There's been another arrest and it's been posted on Facebook. Now, this bloke, James Bartolo, is apparently a bit of a conspiracy theorist, but again, a very heavy-handed approach from the police that we'll see here in just a moment. Are you concerned about the extent to which Victoria Police are trampling on people's human rights over Facebook posts?
I am concerned, and that doesn't mean that what they're doing is right. The law can be wrong, but people should still adhere to it. I think the problem that a lot of us have is we see this inconsistent application of the law where, you know, it was fine for 10,000 people to march in Black Lives Matters march earlier in the pandemic. Dan, they were obviously a lot of his friends and supporters and mates, and he wouldn't stand up to them. But when it was somebody who had a disagreement, he was prepared to use the heavy hand of the law and really quite extreme. I don't understand why they couldn't have just gone in and had a discussion with that woman. But it also, I think, frankly, highlights how much the modern left plays the rhetoric of human rights, but not in practice the detail. In Victoria, we have this Charter of Human Rights, which is designed specifically to protect people, but as soon as it's no longer the interests of the government, they have no issue in trampling on it to achieve their other objectives.